can go ahead and get started. For everyone that is on, thank you for joining. There is a Q&A function that you should see on your screen. Please, at any point, feel free to send questions through. We'll definitely have time at the end to get through those. So let me just kick off by introducing myself. So my name is Steph Bewley. I run marketing here at OneClick Code. I'm in Florida. I'm sure you guys are kind of scattered all over the place. OneClick Code does have our headquarters in Denver. We're here with Ben Wright, our amazing solutions manager, and then also Drew and Blake from the TotalScope team. So we're super excited to have you all today. Hang towards the end. We will be announcing the $100 gift card winner live on the call at the very end. So thanks again for everybody who's listening in. I'm gonna turn it over to Ben and then the TotalScope team for introductions. And then we'll get started here. Take it away, Ben.
Perfect. First of all, welcome everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us. I promise I'm going to give you some minutes back. I'm going to go through this information fairly quickly. But two things. One, if you have a piece of paper and a pen, take some notes. Two, you can always use the Q&A to ask questions. And three, for both myself and the TotalScope team, you'll be able to email us if you need to talk to us one-on-one. With that being said, again, my name is Ben Wright. I'm the Business Solutions Manager here at OneClick Code. And my role is incredibly simple. I provide code back human verified data that becomes your source of truth inside your claim, okay, or file, whatever you're using. At the end of the day, we don't debate opinions and we don't argue facts. And here's the other piece before I hand it over to Drew. I'm going to be 100% straight with you. Everything I go over with you today, you have access to. If you have the time or the team or the patience to go out and try to find it, by all means, you have access to it. But what I'm going to show you is how to access it in 15 seconds or less. So I'll leave it there for now. I'll let Drew go ahead and take over and introduce himself, and then I'll be right back.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, my name is Drew Suttle. I'm one of the owners here at TotalScope. Super appreciative of this opportunity. We love working with OneClick Code. We use them on every single claim and file we touch. So couldn't be happier to be a part of this. But a little bit about me. Like I mentioned, I'm one of the owners here at TotalScope. I'm a licensed public adjuster currently in Texas. I've been licensed in 8 other states as well. So I have a policy background. I'm allowed to have some of those policy arguments with carriers and represent the policy holder where contractors cannot. So I have a good background of seeing how carriers take advantage of policy language, which isn't always fair to the insured or us as contractors either. I'm level 3 certified in Xactimate, which is the highest certification you can get from them. So what's neat about that is it essentially gives me a piece of paper that I can give to an adjuster that lets them know, I know more about this software than you do, and I can kind of correct some of the mistakes that are made using that estimating software when it comes to claims to benefit the homeowner and the contractor. I'm also recently now a certified Xactimate pricing consultant, which means I'm an expert in understanding how Xactimate gets and uses their pricing data. So just another kind of tool in my quiver there. I'm lucky enough I get to travel around the country teaching seminars to contractors all over about Xactimate, claims, how to supplement. So I really enjoy that. What's neat about getting to work in various markets across the country is I can see trends and what's working in some markets maybe isn't working in other. I can see how carriers behave differently in different markets. A AAA claim in Missouri is very different than a AAA claim in Colorado. So it's cool being able to see those trends and try and apply strategies that are working in certain parts of the country, use them elsewhere. So I'm very lucky and blessed that I get to do that. And this is kind of what I'm passionate about is I see how unfairly claims can be specifically to homeowners who are paying, the premiums for the service of having insurance, and to contractors who are just trying to do the right thing and build the property back to the way it was before the loss. So I really enjoy getting to help contractors win more of those battles, and super happy to be here.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you, Drew. All right. Ben, you're up. Just let me know when you want me to flip through.
Sure, no problem. So, folks, what we're going to talk about today, or I guess why we're here, right? So we're going to talk about a few things. Number one, this whole webinar is built around a simple concept. If you have that pen and paper, I want you to write this down. SAE. S is speed, A is accuracy, E is efficiency. What that means is we get you paid what you're owed and we get it done faster. Okay. So I want you to remember that acronym: speed, accuracy, efficiency. Now, at the end of the day, and answer this question for yourself, you don't have to answer out loud or put it in the chat. At the end of the day, when someone files a claim, who is the most important person involved in that claim? Now, if we're good, honest, good guys, right? We're not the bad characters, we're the good guys. The owner, the homeowner is the most important person in this process. So we want to make sure that the homeowner gets their claim processed as quickly and efficiently as possible. We want to make sure the contractor stays profitable, and we also want to avoid friction with the carriers. I was an adjuster for a decade. Believe me, I know and understand the friction between the two factions. Okay. But we're here to eliminate that back and forth and make sure that we slow everything down while at the same time being fast and efficient. I know that's kind of backwards, but if we do it right the first time, that by default makes everything quicker. So let me ask you this just let me ask you this question: is did you know that there are 32,000 jurisdictions in the United States? 32,000 code jurisdictions in the United States with up to 9,000 changes per year. Now, I already know what you're probably thinking. You're like, oh, I only work the Dallas area. I know my code there. Well, I'm not going to debate that, but here's what I will tell you. Over the last 7 years, we've pulled almost a million codes in all these jurisdictions. 57% of the time, regardless of who pulled it, the contractor, the PA, the carrier, or the guy who just knows everything about his zip code, right? It does not matter who pulled it. 57% of the time, they are incorrect. Now, that's not me saying it, that's the data saying it, right? So here's another question for you. When you pull code, are you checking it every single time? Are you getting real-time updates? Are you verifying it every single time on every single file? If you are, you're one of the 100th of 1% in the country. Most people are not doing that. And the reason why, it takes time. It takes, and time means payroll. You got to hire someone to do it, or someone on your staff has to do it. Or if you're doing it, you're not in the field selling more roofs and repairing more roofs. You're taking the time out to find stuff that we provide you in 15 seconds. Next slide, please. All right. So when I talk about speed and simplicity, this is what it really boils down to. One-click code was built to remove what I call research tax, right? That research tax takes up hours on every single claim. Okay. Now, if you're really, really efficient at what you do, you can probably find code for your local area fairly quickly if you know where to go. But the reality is, I have relationships with thousands of contractors. And again, I was an adjuster for a decade. I've talked to people on a daily basis. On average, people are taking anywhere from 1 to 2 hours a day. And in some places, it takes 2 to 3 days to get the information because they don't know who to call. They get the runaround. Somebody sends them old information, or you're pulling from a file that you researched 2 years ago and you're using the code from that file because you've saved it. And it just simply doesn't work. So we're going to eliminate that guesswork. We're going to make the claim match the jurisdiction, and I'll show you how we do that in just a second. Now, the best part is for your staff, whether it's you or someone that works for you, it's easy because you don't need a technical background. It's literally fill in the blank, press enter. 15 seconds later, you have a full-fledged, human verified, defensible report that you can add into your claim, as well as citations if you need to do F9 notes. Okay. fewer delays, fewer disputes, fewer approvals, etc. You're able to access this from your desktop or your mobile phone. There's an app on the mobile phone that you can use in the field to pull your code right then and there, right? So I want you to think about how powerful this is. You're in the field, the adjuster is there with you. The adjuster is telling you, well, that's not required for the roof. That's not required for siding and windows. You guys didn't know we did siding and windows. That's new. We now provide siding and windows to the code report. Okay. You can pull up the code report right then and there and eliminate any debates. Eliminate what they think they know and show them the focused truth right then and there. Okay. So any questions on that? Please ask us, because I want to make sure you guys thoroughly understand that concept. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, when I say get paid what you're owed, that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different contractors, okay, or PAs, whoever it may be. What I'm talking about is the good characters of this industry, the good guys, the guys that do it right, the guys that care about doing it right, that want to have, verifiable estimates. I'm not talking about the fly by night companies that come and invade your territory every time there's a storm and they say anything under the sun to get a sale. Not talking about those guys. Talking about if you're on this because you know about those bad guys, right? So let's talk about the good guys. Underplayed claims happen when the estimate isn't backed by verifiable data. That is a fact. When I was an adjuster working, and I was independent, and I also worked for carriers, desk adjusting. There were rules that we had to go by. If something was required by code and they did not provide a code report, it was automatically denied. Not because I wanted to, it's the way that the industry is. So we've got to have that verifiable third party, documentation. Now, not only are we giving you the code, we can also provide manufacturer documentation if you need it, tax info, and optional services such as permit fees, weather reports, you name it. We can get that in there so that your estimate, once it goes to the carrier, is as accurate as it can possibly be. And when you have defensible, and you're going to hear me repeat these words over, when you have defensible data, factual data that comes directly from the source, that is stuff that you cannot argue. So I'll say it again. We don't debate opinions. I could care less about opinions, and we don't argue facts. If it's a fact, it's a fact. We're going to provide it for you. And now you have something to go to battle with. Okay. If it's not verifiable, it's debatable. We make everything verifiable. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. So fair, trusted, and transparent. This is actually one of my favorite things to talk about. You may or may not have heard about us, and that's perfectly okay. We have been in business for about 7 years. We've proven our credibility over and over. I mentioned earlier, we've pulled almost 1 million codes. Our reports are trusted by carriers, contractors, supplement firms, PAs, attorneys, and even homeowners. And, again, we're not debating opinion. We're providing factual data to you. When we provide the factual data, there's less room for debate. 4 out of the top 10 carriers we already work with. 9 of the top 25 carriers we already work with. And we are currently in open negotiations with 6 more of the major carriers in the United States. And we currently have over 1,000 contractors across the US and roofers that currently use our product. There is no way that we would get to that point and have that type of credibility in the marketplace if we weren't doing something right. Now, with that said, I will share this. I had just at my last event in Dallas a couple days ago, I had a public adjuster come up and tell me that our codes were useless because they weren't defensible, and that he pulled a code and it was incorrect. So I asked him, how many codes do you pull a year? He said, I don't know, between 1 and 200. And how many of those were incorrect? Just that one. So out of 100 plus reports, we had one report that had missed data. And so because of that, you're telling me that we're useless? That doesn't even logically make sense. And my father always taught me, don't argue with people. Well, you guys know the rest. I won't say it. We're going to stay professional today. All right. Here's the reality. Nothing is 100% perfect in this world at all. Okay. But here's what we do. We have a human team that verifies all of our code, but there's 9,000 changes a year. there is a chance that some of that code could slip through the cracks. Now, TotalScope can probably, they can chime in and tell, their experience. When something happens that may be incorrect, we get on it immediately. So if you do get something that's old or outdated or has been updated, you let us know. We get our team on it, not an AI, a human being who's going to pull the code, call the person in charge, verify it, and then update it manually, and we're going to send you a new report. That's called service. Why do we do that? Because our reputation is staked upon it. Okay. So third-party verified documentation, you're you're protected by our reputation, and we're going to reduce conflict. It's that simple. Now, the cleanest path to fair payments and faster approvals is verified documentation. Okay, would you agree or disagree? Okay, all right. Next slide, please.
Can I piggyback on that real quick, Ben?
Yes, sir. Please.
Because this ties into exactly what you were talking about, and being trustworthy and verifiable. This is on my desk right now. This is subpoenas we've received just in the last couple months. I have to do depositions every single month. Sometimes I'm called as a fact witness. Other times I'm called as an expert witness to testify on these claims. And in every single one of our claim files, there is a OneClick Code report. And out of the dozens and dozens of depositions and subpoenas I've had to be a part of, I have never once received any pushback on the OneClick Code reports that are in there. As far as I've seen, when these claims go to litigation, the OneClick Code reports are pretty much accepted. So I think that public adjuster you were talking about there, he certainly found like the very rare exception. And like you mentioned, if 1 out of 200 is incorrect, that's still 99.5% accurate. So I've never had any issue with OneClick Code. It seems to be accepted in court. So that's a big part of why we use you guys on every single file we touch. So just wanted to get that little anecdote in there.
That's awesome to hear, and I definitely appreciate the testimony. And you're absolutely right. We do claim to be about 99.5% accurate because there will be things that slip through the crack. That's just nature. That's life, right? There's nothing you can do about that. There is no such thing as perfection. But what we strive for is to be as close to perfection as we possibly can. Now, the goal is not to go to court, but the fact is, if you do go to court, anything related to our report is not going to be debated, right? And so that's that protection. That's that level of comfort that you can have moving forward when you're using our information. Okay. With that being said, let me go over exactly how easy this is. Okay. You can look up any address in the United States that you want, and it's instant. It's also geocoded to the direct address. You have state, county, municipality, city, et cetera, et cetera. The jurisdictions in every state can be different than the county or the city or the municipality. So it's really going down to the address specifically. When you put in the address, it's going to pull up the jurisdictional info for that specific address in that specific area. Okay. You're going to get critical roof construction items or information. You're going to get weather history if you want it, permit fees, sales tax. And again, people have been asking for this, so it is available. Siding and windows, and that's huge. For those of you that do exterior work, you know how big that is. Okay, you're going to plug that data directly into your estimate, so your scope is built on the scope or the source of truth. Now, we're not going to be able to assist you with O&P or certain line items that are not related to code. There's nothing we can do there. But if it is related to code, you're going to be 100% protected when you pull our reports. Okay. So this is going to reduce adjuster pushback, and because you're presenting verified requirements. Okay. Next page, please. All right. So the question is, why OneClick Code, and what do you do next? Okay. So again, I want to just go over a few numbers I talked about earlier. We have 1,000+ roofers and adjusters that use us daily. Okay, our platform is proven. This is not a beta test. We are 100% proven. If you want to see it firsthand, you can connect with me. My information will be coming up shortly. You can send me an email or even call me. I will say that generally speaking, I'm much quicker to respond to emails. So shoot me an email and I will get with you. We'll set up some time. Okay. Now, before I leave, I want to go over a couple things. 7 years, 1 million reports, and a 57% of all estimates have some sort of error, whether it's tax, jurisdictional error, code, whatever it may be. Those errors on average create about a $1,500 leakage. Okay. And that could come from several different places, right? But about $1,500 leakage. Now, we already see forward thinking clients already using our reports as part of every single file, right? It's now becoming policy. It's no longer pilot, right? It's no longer, oh, it'll be nice to have that. It's mandatory at certain companies now, okay? That standard is spreading quickly. Why? Because it simply works. Nobody wants to argue this stuff. The contractor, the carrier, and everyone in between, right? So in the near future, I would probably say most carriers across the board are going to require some sort of verified code documentation as a baseline. Now the question is, when this shift happens, do you want the port a quality report that already exists? Do you want quality, credibility, defensibility? If the answer is yes, then you want OneClick. The second option is fall behind, and then every single time you turn in a report, it goes to supplement, right? Or they deny something, and you got to go back and put more hours in, et cetera, et cetera. Time is money in this industry. If there's one thing I know about contractors, the more time they're spending on this, the less money they're making. Okay. And so time is money. Now, here's something to ponder as we end this on my portion. If you handle just 100 claims a year, and I already told you industry shows 57% error rate, but we're going to go with a 40% error rate. We're going to drop it. Okay. I also stated that we, on average, have about $1,500 per claim on leakage. We're going to drop that to 900. So at 100 claims a year with a 40% error rate at $900 per claim, that's $36,000 a year in pure loss revenue, right? I want you to let that sink in. $36,000 a year for a issue that you don't have to have. Okay. Now that's before you factor in cycle times, re-inspections, supplements. You're having your assistant do whatever they're doing, the hourly wages for that task, etc. Now that's $36,000 a year on 100 claims. What if you're doing 500 claims? What if you're doing 1,000 claims a year? Right? That's not a small problem. That's a profitability problem. And I'll be completely honest. If I'm the CEO of a company and my director of business or whatever we call him is letting $36,000 a year slip out of my company over a preventable issue, he's not going to be my director very long. Okay. That's a profitability. Now, here's the question I want you to ponder for the rest of this deal. Are you willing to let a $20 report, and that's worst case scenario, are you willing to let a $20 report stand between you and what you're owed? In this case, a $900 extra added onto your estimate, right? That's what I want you to ponder for the rest of this. Next slide, please.
You want me to keep going?
Yeah, next slide. Okay, here's my contact information. So take a photograph or write that information down, scan that code. If you scan that code you will get a 15% discount on all of our plans. Okay, we do have some preset plans that are on the website that you can sign up for, but we can also customize anything. So if you are a high volume roofer, my advice is don't sign up on the website. Call me first. Let's put a specific customized plan together for you. But more importantly, I don't really want to sell you a plan right now. I just want to answer your questions. So call me, give me an email. Let's sit down and talk and we'll go from there. Okay. Give it 10 more seconds just for everyone to get that information and you can go to the next slide.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ben.
Mhm.
And just a reminder to everyone on the call, if you see the Q&A function, that is essentially the chat function. So if you have a question that is top of mind while we're going through this material, please feel free to send it through. Also, tomorrow morning you will get a copy of this presentation and contact details as well. Okay. Real quick before we transfer it over to the TotalScope team, we do have one question that asked how long it takes for a report to come in. Our reports are instantaneous, so once you're in our platform, you punch in literally any address nationwide, and it literally comes up in an instant. Thank you, Renee. All right, I'm gonna pass it over to the TotalScope team. Take it away, Drew.
Awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to touch on one last thing Ben had mentioned earlier is, even if you only work in one market, the building codes inside and out where you work. It's not always just what you know, but when it comes to a claim, it's what you can prove, right? So, I've worked in small markets where maybe their building department might not have the best website. It's hard to get something in writing confirming what's actually code there. So that's another huge benefit of OneClick Code is even if you know the codes inside out, you still need something to send to the carrier in order to get it approved. So that's another great benefit of OneClick Code. But before I get into who we are at TotalScope and exactly what we want to do, I kind of wanted to do a recap of kind of the state of the industry. I've been in the claims game for over 15 years now, and I think I have certainly experienced supplementing and claims. It tends to only get harder as we go. Claims are much harder now than they were certainly 15 years ago, and that's every part of the claim. We're seeing much more repairs versus replacement now. O&P used to be if there's two or more trades. Now everything's based on complexity. We're getting new policies we have to contend with. So everything is getting harder. And I think, unfortunately, that claim is only going to continue, or that trend is only going to continue. If we look at just last year, 2025, I've seen several different figures, but kind of the generally accepted number is claims were down 24% last year compared to the previous year of 2024. I've seen some studies that say up to 40% down. So there was less work to go around last year. So claims are getting harder, and there was less work out there for you to get. Carrier profitability is expected to decrease. It decreased in 2025, and it's expected to decrease again in 2026. If you look at carriers' combined ratio, which is comparing what they're taking in premium payments to what they're paying out in claims, that percentage is expected to go to 99% this year in 2026. So it being less than 100, it means they're still profitable, but the carrier's margins are shrinking. So they're currently profitable, but their pockets are getting smaller along the way, despite it being a lower claim volume year last year. So what does that mean? If their profits are shrinking, how are they going to react? Well, unfortunately, it means stuff's only going to get tougher. Aside from their combined ratio increasing, carriers' reinsurance costs are also increasing. So their margins are getting smaller and their costs are going up. Reinsurance, every carrier has reinsurance, which is the easiest way to think of that is if you and a buddy decide to have a barbecue and you say, I'll cover the first $1,000 and you cover anything above that up to $200. Your buddy is reinsurance. That's what carriers have. And all of those rates are increasing as well. So that's only further tightening the carrier's margins as well. So as a result, all of this has to get passed somewhere, right? So unfortunately, it's getting passed on to policyholders. One way they're doing that is higher premiums. So from 2020 to 2023, policyholders' premiums rose 33%. So homeowners are paying more for insurance now than they ever have. We're seeing deductibles get higher. Just from 2024 to 2025, the average deductible rose 24.5%, so almost a quarter. So that can affect claim volume as well, because if it's a partial approval and the homeowner has a huge deductible, they may be hesitant to file that claim. So that, again, that could lead to less claims out there for you to work as a contractor. We're seeing these new policies that are tougher to manage, RPS policies or RSPS, roof surfacing payment schedules. Um, it's essentially an ACV policy where the homeowner has replacement cost coverage on their entire property, except for their roof surfacing materials, which are essentially ACV at that point. So that means the homeowner, in all likelihood, is going to be covering more of that roof than the insurance company. That basically turns that into a retail job at that point. We're seeing now cosmetic exclusions, even for asphalt shingles. So even if there's hail damage to the property, the carrier might not try and cover it unless there's broken matting. If you ask any shingle manufacturer, and my opinion as well, I don't believe there's such a thing as cosmetic damage to an asphalt shingle. Even granule loss. If you ask a manufacturer if granules perform a function, they'll tell you yes. So I would argue then that is now functional damage. But that's another battle we've been seeing become more prevalent, unfortunately. So that's going to be more partial approvals or partial denials, repair versus replacement. So what all of this means is, these claims are getting harder. And when they start at a worse place, that increases our documentation burden, right? So that's where we're very much aligned with OneClick Code. I think documentation is key. If you want a fair settlement, you have to have the documentation asking or supporting everything you're asking for. At the end of the day, it's the policyholder's duty to prove the loss. It's not necessarily the carrier has to investigate the loss, but it's the policyholder that has to prove the loss. And in reality, most homeowners, they don't know construction, they don't know roofing. So that's where the contractor is needed to help prove the loss. In order to prove the loss and prove what is owed, that's where our documentation like OneClick Code and other things come into play. Another thing we're seeing over the past couple of years, claim volume was down, but the claims are getting harder. And part of that is because veteran adjusters are now hitting retirement age. So we're actually seeing a big gap in adjuster knowledge. There's more inexperienced adjusters now than veteran adjusters. And that trend is also expected to keep going in that same direction. So another reason why documentation is key. Kind of my rule of thumb is anything you have to touch on a property, whether that's you, a supervisor, your crew, if you have to touch something on a property, you should be paid for doing so. But in order to be paid for doing so, it has to be documented. So anything you have to touch, you should have a photo of. We can't take the carrier's word for it. We don't know what they're approving yet in certain scenarios. So anything you have to touch, you need documentation for. We need to be able to explain what we're asking for, why we're asking for it, and then provide documentation showing if it's required by code or by manufacturer installation instructions. We have to be able to document every single thing we're asking for that's different than what the carrier has allowed. So a big part of that will be what I call front loading your documentation. That's why at TotalScope, the way we write our estimates, we like to try and give the adjuster and the carrier everything they need up front. They should never receive a TotalScope estimate and come back to us and say, okay, I have your estimate, but send me your photos or send me some proof that this is code, or why are you asking for this? We want to take away the why off the bat. If an adjuster ever gets a TotalScope report and they come back to us and say, why are you asking for something? That just tells me they didn't read the report. I said, please go back and review everything I sent you. I sent you 100 pages documenting every single thing we're asking for. And like Ben mentioned earlier too, it's great that OneClick Code seems to hold up in court, but obviously the goal is to avoid that in the first place. So even though I had a huge stack of subpoenas there, the vast majority of projects we're involved in do not have to go that route. we try and treat every claim as if it is going to litigation. And we found that if you set up your claims that way and document everything appropriately, very few actually have to go that route. So from there, if we could go to the next slide, please. So a little bit about TotalScope. What makes us different than some other supplementing or estimating options out there is, one, we used to be roofers. My brother and I, we had our own roofing company in the Denver market. So we've been in your shoes. It's being a roofer or a contractor in general is hard. You know, we got material shortages, labor shortages. It's hard to find good crews to do the work. You got to deal with homeowners. You got to deal with your field reps, your sales guys. There's a lot of stuff to manage. And then on top of that, when you get into insurance work, now you also have to fight just to get paid properly on a claim. So part of the reason we started TotalScope was we want to be able to get a fair settlement for the work we're doing on a claim. But the other part was we found it very difficult to get your guys in the field to actually take the proper photos and get the proper documentation needed in order to get those supplements approved. So that is why we created TotalScope, and we created our own software. We have our own mobile app and our own web portal that's designed for while you're there on the roof, you can run through our app, and it's going to ask you the questions to help find all of the details that the carrier may have missed on that claim. So it's going to ask you, you know, what's the existing shingle type? What's the underlayment? How many layers are there? What's the valley material? Is there ice and water shield existing? All of that data, all of those data points right there equal dollars in your pocket, as long as you just get accurate data and photos documenting it. So that's why we created our own software, is to try and force your people in the field to answer those questions, find all those missing items that the carrier may have missed, and document it properly. Another thing that sets us apart is every single one of our estimates is written by level 3 certified Xactimate professional. I believe we're the only supplement or estimating company that can say that. That's more than just one guy in a basement writing estimates. And what sets us apart too from an estimate standpoint is, with us, you don't just get an Xactimate PDF. Like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to take away the why. So every single thing we're supplementing for, everything we're asking for that is different than what the carrier approved, we want some sort of documentation for it. So we include a OneClick Code report in every single estimate we touch. We also include the actual pages out of the IRC, just in case you get some adjuster. It says, yes, I see the OneClick Code report, but I also want to see the IRC pages. So we include that as well. We include measurement reports, which will back up and verify all of the quantities we're asking for in terms of roof measurements or siding measurements. We'll include manufacturer documents when necessary, like do not mix letters if it's a discontinued shingle type situation. And then we also have two different kinds of photo reports we include. One we call our detail photos. That's where we're trying to point something specifically out to the adjuster, saying, here's the step flashing being nailed through. This is a malleable metal. As soon as the shingles are torn off, this step flashing is going to be torn up. So that's where we're trying to highlight specific things to the adjusters. And then we also include a photo report of every single photo that was taken on site. So the adjuster has every single photo I have. So again, they should never ask me for photos. That they already have every single one I have. We also do claim handling, and all of our claim handlers have been trained by public adjusters, which is important because we know the legal lines you cannot cross. Carriers are really cracking down on UPA, or unlicensed practice of public adjusting. So it's very important that as a contractor, or if you're using a service like us at TotalScope, you got to stay in your lane. You cannot get into any policy discussions. That can certainly be considered UPA. But we have a great claims team. We have automations in place that will automatically follow up on your claims every 2 days after the report is sent. So we're getting constant updates and constant requests for updates to the carriers, all of which gets passed on to you. And can we do the next slide, please? So timelines is a big part of it. Like we mentioned earlier, claims are getting harder. And when a roof claim is starting as, 17 individual shingles approved on the front elevation, 34 on the right elevation, nothing on the rear. So claim timelines are increasing. So that's why we're a huge believer in compartmentalizing our claims team. We actually have 2 different claims teams working on your claims. We have an admin team that is constantly calling, just trying to get follow-ups. Have you reviewed the estimate? No. Okay. When do you think you'll be able to get to it to take a look? So we can always keep in their ear, try and get movement on a file after we submit the estimate to them. And then we have an actual more advanced claim handling team, more equipped to have those tougher discussions with adjusters about, what is actually owed on the policy, even though we're not getting into a policy discussion, but we're able to explain, construction methods like flashings we just mentioned. Okay, sure, maybe the flashing isn't damaged by hail, but it's going to be damaged during the standard construction process. They're more equipped to have those types of conversations. So we have 2 different teams working on your claims at all times, trying to get you the most updated information on your claim and the best results as well. And at the end of the day, that's our goal. Is we want you to get paid for the work you actually do. There's nothing more frustrating than not getting paid for starter when the homeowner is paying for it in their premiums every single month. It's already existing on their roof. You have to install it per manufacturer installation instructions. And then the carrier tries to get out of paying for it by including it in a waste percentage that mathematically doesn't add up. So we try and minimize that. That's our goal. We want you to get paid every single legitimate penny on that claim and nothing more. Next slide, please. So pricing, we've also learned throughout the years, every contractor operates differently. They all have different needs. So we try and provide solutions for all different types of organizations out there. If you just need an estimate, we have options for that. Again, our estimate doesn't just give you the Xactimate report. It gives you all the supporting documentation as well. And that's just a flat fee of $297. So you can use our estimate, submit it to the carrier, and deal with the claim yourself. Or if you want more of a turnkey solution, we can also write the estimate, submit it to the carrier on your behalf, and deal with the carrier for you and provide those updates to you directly, provide you any revised paperwork we get from the carrier along the way. So that option it's $150 up front, and then 10% of the increase we achieve on the back end. And because we used to be contractors, we understand cash flow. If I get you an extra $10,000 approved on a claim today, I know that's not hitting your bank account for a while. You still have to actually complete the work, invoice the insurance company, then the funds get sent from the insurance company to the homeowner, then you have to collect it. So we try and help you out with cash flow. So that 10% of the increase that we bill on the back end, that's billed at a net 30. So you have a 30-day head start before we actually bill you for that on the back end. We can also write commercial estimates. So if you do any commercial, flat roofing work, we do that as well. We still use OneClick Code because that's now we're switching from the IRC to the IBC and IECC for our ISO board. So OneClick Code is a great resource for commercial files as well. And our estimate cost for that is $500 for commercial fees or commercial files, excuse me. We also learned, everyone has different needs, but they also have different ideas of how to best work with them. So we have different options there as well. Like I mentioned earlier, We have our own software we developed. Like I mentioned, it was designed to capture all those details that the carrier may miss. So that's an option. You can sign up and use our own software. There's no subscription fee or anything. And you can collaborate with us through that software or through that mobile app. If that's too much for you, if you already have your own CRM, you don't want to add another technology suite, we can work right in your CRM. We can provide you an email. All you have to do is set us up as a user and then simply tag us in a note when that file is ready for an estimate and needs to be claim handled. So we can work within your systems as well. And if that's too much too, we also have email options where you can just email us your project info, links to your photos, the carrier paperwork, and we can get working for you that way as well. So we try and provide an option for every different type of contractor out there. Next slide, please. And for results, I would put our results up against any other supplement company. I think we're actually slightly cheaper and we get slightly better results. So in the last year, our average approved supplement was over $9,000. And that's kind of a mixed bag too. Because some of our contractors do roof only, some do all trades. So that $9,000 is a mix of all of that. But so take TotalScope out of the picture. That also tells us if you're not supplementing a claim, the average claim is having at least $9,000 left off of it by the carrier. So supplementing is an absolute must. That $9,000 also translates to an average claim increase of over 44%. So our clients have been pretty happy with our results, and we have a huge focus on education. We're doing education events all the time. So even if you're not using us, I encourage you to come see me if I come to your market and give a presentation. I'm always happy to help however I can. But we're big on customer service. We think that's another thing that sets us apart. Every supplement company out there will tell you they get good results. I'll tell you we get good results. But I think what truly sets us apart too is the customer service aspect. We have a dedicated team that's going to be in constant communication with you, asking if you need any help with anything, touching base with you on all your claims, answering your questions. So we want you to think of us more as your own supplementing and estimating team. We're not a third-party service. We're part of your team and part of your process. So feel free to check us out at TotalScope.com. You can email me directly. It's just drew@TotalScope.com. Happy to answer any questions you have along the way. There's my direct contact info. So, even if you're not working with us, if you have a tough claim, you're not sure how to proceed, shoot me an email. I'm happy to help. If you have Xactimate questions, I'm happy to help there as well. So that's what I had for today. Thank you, OneClick Code, for having me. And that we have some time here to answer any questions that might be asked along the way. And we'll announce the prize winner here shortly as well.
Yes.
While we're waiting to answer any questions, I just want to say one last thing, and this applies to both OneClick Code and TotalScope. We are both about partnerships. This is not a transactional relationship. I don't want your business just to say, "Oh, I got their business." I want to know you. I want to get to know your business, and how can I help you increase your revenue? At the end of the day, we want to help you succeed. If you succeed, we succeed. So it has to be a win-win partnership. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Yes, thank you everyone so much. We did get one question regarding turnaround time regarding the TotalScope software, and I know Blake, you answered in the chat. Thank you so much for doing that. I did just want to make sure Drew, if you want to voice that over, just in case some folks may not see the Q&A, I think it'd just be helpful to touch on that.
Yeah, so our average turnaround time for an estimate is less than 24 hours. So if you submitted a file, today before noon, you'd likely have it back in a couple hours. Our website does say, I think, up to 5 business days. That's for like worst case scenario, huge hurricane, major cat event hits, and we're absolutely swarmed. I don't think we've ever actually been that far out, but our average turnaround time is within 24 hours. And I think at our busiest, the worst that ever got, I think, was within 48 hours still. So we are quick. And again, I know AI is the big thing everyone gets excited about. But we've had a ton of feedback of people that have used some of these AI estimating services. And, I think AI is a great tool. It can come in handy. But I certainly don't trust AI yet. I've asked AI some questions just to help me write a paragraph, just to speed things up for me. And if I would have copied and pasted what AI came up with and sent that in an email to the carrier, I would for sure get into some trouble. AI can certainly cross some of those upper lines we talked about. So we've actually gotten feedback that people are happy that we are real experts, level 3 certified. I think that provides more benefit than AI in a lot of cases. So there might be some AI options out there that will advertise a quicker turnaround time. But I don't think it will do as well as coming from an actual expert and level 3 certified Xactimate Pro as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Drew. As we close out here, I do want to just announce the winner, and then we do also have some just the last few questions as well. So Chelsea Pluta, if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, forgive me if I'm not, you are our winner. So I will be in touch with you directly. I have your information from registering. So congrats. And then Ben, this one is for you. So we got a question from William Taylor asking if a carrier refuses to accept a one-click code report, or perhaps this is for the whole group really. But where do we go from there?
So there are several answers to that question. One, most importantly, it's going to be subject to what they're refusing. So every single instance of that happening has been a different situation. It's not very common. It's rare when that happens, but when it does, normally we let them know that one, we are not a middleman. We're not a third party service. Our code comes directly from the jurisdiction. Okay. Now, outside of that, if you have a specific situation, email it to me and I can tell you how to handle it, because it's going to be different. And also, it's also going to be dependent on who the carrier is. The most common one is we need a letter on letterhead from the jurisdiction in order for this to go through. That is 100% nonsense. No, you don't. And you just got to hold them to that. The last thing any carrier on earth wants is a bad faith charge. That's the last thing they want. Okay. And so if they're refusing, you know, guaranteed data from the jurisdiction, that's not a good look. So you have to just know how to communicate that with them. So, but if you have a specific, what's the word I'm looking for, a specific situation, email me and I'll tell you how to handle it.
Well, and also, so I've been using OneClick Code since they launched. So years ago, yeah, I would get pushback from carriers saying like, "Who's one-click code? I'm not accepting this." I have seen way less of that. And I couldn't even tell you the last time we got pushback like that. But one thing that's cool about one-click code is not only does it give you the code information on their reports, but it also it gives you the contact information for that building department. So you'll have the chief inspector's information right on the first page of that report. And like Ben said, the carrier's lying. They don't have to have something on letterhead. That's nowhere in the policy does it state that. But sometimes the path of least resistance is just getting them what they want. So you have their information right there. You could shoot them an email. Their phone number's listed there as well. And you could try and get a response back saying, yes, we have adopted the 2021 IRC, or if it's a code specific problem, like, do you enforce ventilation? You could ask that and try and get a response that way. So it makes finding out who to contact from the building department, very easy because it's listed right on the first page of their building code details report as well.
True.
All right, awesome. Well, I think that is a wrap. Thank you, everyone who attended. As I mentioned at the beginning, we'll be sending out a recording and thank you emails where you'll see folks' contact information. Ben, TotalScope crew, you guys crushed it. Have a great rest of your week, everyone, and happy roofing.
Yep. Thanks for
Thanks. You
attending.
guys have a good
Thanks for
evening.
having me.
Yeah, 100%. We'll be talking more. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.